Hello, you're watching this video, I guess, because you were searching for some advice about how to plan a project and most likely rather waterfall way, which is one out of basically two larger clusters of project management methodologies. The other one is Agile. But today we are talking about a scenario where you are planning and monitoring, leading a project where the scope is pretty clear, where your resources are exactly known or limited, and you probably have a deadline. If that is the case, I urge you not to go Agile, but to work with Waterfall methodology. Agile is very good in a different scenario, but if that is the case, this is the way to go. Now, how do you actually do that? I would start thinking about the scope. So you have your scope and you think about which clusters can I use in this. Let's assume you're organizing a birthday party. Clusters could be guest management, it could be catering, and it could be music. Just some examples. So you have your clusters, thematic clusters. Then you take each of these clusters and you define one or more milestones and you phrase them as milestones. You phrase basically a sentence that expresses that the goal within this cluster was achieved. It can, for example, mean all drinks are available, ready to be drunk at the party, and all food is available, or all guests are invited and have confirmed, etc. So you define such a milestone. Once you have the milestone, the next step is that you define the steps that will completely bring you to achieving this milestone. So that can be draft invitation text, finalize invitation text. Maybe you want to have somebody proofread it or a sign off from somebody. You might want to translate it. You can send the invitations. You can ensure if it reached your guest, etc. So you break it down into the steps. Now here often comes the question, first, what's the right level of granularity? Because every phenomenon in human thinking can be always broken down further. And a good rule of thumb is, let's break it down to a level where you can clearly say, yes, it was done, or no, it was not done. If I say the invitation is translated to English, then I can say, yes, it was translated, no, it was not translated. But if the step is something like invitations are handled or were successful with all guests, that is somehow not broken down to a level where I can say a very clear and easy, simple yes or no. So that is a good level. Now you have your packages, your clusters, you have your milestones, and you have your steps that bring you there. And that's actually already a very complete way of planning your project. The next one is put it on a timeline. If you have a deadline, then think about how long each of these steps will actually take. And be honest about it. We are here talking not about the relative effort they take, but about how long will it take until they happen. So if you think about sending invitations to your guests, think about all the way they will actually take. So if you go the old way and you use actually postal services, they will need 2 or 3 days to actually deliver it. It will take you only like 1 moment to take them and put them into the mailbox. But that's not what we're talking about. Think about these steps, about how much time will really pass from start to end until the next step can take over. And actually, you have to be very careful in this context about sign-off processes or creative processes, because these usually take longer than one might think. Once you have the durations, then you put them into an order. You actually define the dependencies. You define the sequence. Which step follows which other? And then, if you put the durations into the right sequence, you will know how long your project will take. And if then you see, oh, but I won't hit the deadline, I will be too late, you for the first time have the tool in your hand to either go and renegotiate the deadline, or in terms of the birthday party where it's probably not possible, to review your plan, take steps out, think about what you can probably do faster, etc. Last step, think about every single step and think about who is actually doing that. and make sure that for either each cluster or each step, you have an accountable person. If you don't have an accountable person, that's you yourself running this whole thing. And otherwise, you can assign accountabilities. What do I mean with accountability? Please go also to the video about RACI metrics, where I go into more detail about that. But what I'm talking about is the one person who will make sure that either a cluster or the whole project or a particular task will be happening to success within the timeline that you have agreed. And once you have that ready, you can basically lean back, monitor the project's success, get your accountable persons together every now and then, ask for a refresher on the status or if the structure is still right. You can also change that. Waterfall plans don't mean that you can never change them. You can actually handle them in a flexible way as long as the scope, resources, and timeline still stay as agreed, and then you just execute this project and everything should be fine. Please be welcome to debate this or ask questions in the comments of this video, and otherwise I hope this was helpful.